I thought I knew my son. I thought I'd raised him to be kind, to be grateful, to understand the value of things that can't be measured in dollars. But that Tuesday morning, when my phone rang and I heard his voice cold, businesslike, stripped of any warmth, I realized I'd been wrong about so many things. "Mom, I need to talk to you about the house." I was sitting in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd made him breakfast every morning for 18 years. Where I'd packed his lunches, bandaged his scraped knees, helped him with homework at that very table. The morning light was streaming through the window, hitting the photographs on the wall. David at his high school graduation. David at his wedding. David holding his newborn daughter. "What about the house, sweetheart?" There was a pause. Not the comfortable silence we'd shared 1,000 times before, but something heavier, something that made my chest tighten. "Jennifer and I have been talking. With the baby, and Jennifer's student loans, and the cost of everything right now, we need to make some smart financial decisions." I waited. My hands had started to shake, just slightly, so I set down my coffee cup. "We think it's time to sell this place. The market's crazy right now, Mom. Houses in this neighborhood are going for almost $1 million. We could split it, and you could get a nice apartment somewhere. Maybe one of those assisted living places with activities and—" "David." I said his name quietly, but something in my tone made him stop. "This is my home." "I know, Mom, but be realistic. You're 72 years old. This house is too big for you. 4 bedrooms, all that yard work, the maintenance. And honestly, it's not fair that all this equity is just sitting here when Jennifer and I are struggling." "Not fair." Those words echoed in my head. I looked around my kitchen, at the scratch on the counter from when David had tried to build a birdhouse in 4th grade. At the mark on the doorframe where we'd measured his height every birthday. At the window seat where I'd rocked him when he had nightmares. "Your father and I bought this house in 1978, I said. "We saved for 7 years for the down payment. Your father worked double shifts at the factory. I took in ironing and watched neighbors' children. We sacrificed everything for this house, David. For you. And I appreciate that, Mom, I really do. But that was almost 50 years ago. Things are different now. Do you know what childcare costs? What diapers cost? Emma needs things, and we can barely— I raised you in this house. I know. And now it's time to let it go. Look, I've already talked to a realtor, Sandra Kemper, remember her? She was 2 years behind me in school. She says she can have this place sold in a week. We could probably close in 30 days. I'm coming over this Saturday with the papers. Just sign them, and we can get this process started." My throat had gone dry. "You've already talked to a realtor?" "Mom, don't make this harder than it needs to be. It's the smart thing to do. You'll have plenty of money for a nice apartment, and Jennifer and I can finally get ahead. That's what family does, right? We help each other." After he hung up, I sat there for a long time. The coffee had gone cold. Outside, Mrs. Patterson was walking her dog, the same route she'd walked for 20 years. The oak tree your father planted the year David was born swayed in the breeze, its branches now reaching past the second-floor windows. I thought about the night your father died, 5 years ago now, cancer quick and merciless. His last words to me, in this very house, in our bedroom upstairs. "Don't let anyone take this from you, Eleanor. This is yours. You earned it. You keep it." I'd promised him. But I'd also promised to take care of our son, to be there for him, to support him. How do you choose between 2 promises made to the people you love most? That week passed in a blur. I barely slept. I kept walking through the house, touching things, remembering. The banister David slid down when he was 6, giving me a heart attack. The bathroom where I'd found him trying to shave like his father when he was 12. The living room where he'd proposed to Jennifer, asking for my blessing first. Where had that boy gone? When had my sweet, thoughtful son become this stranger who saw his childhood home as nothing more than a financial asset? Saturday arrived too quickly. I heard David's car in the driveway at exactly 10 o'clock. He'd always been punctual. That, at least, hadn't changed. But he didn't come alone. Jennifer was with him, carrying a briefcase that looked expensive. Too expensive for people who were supposedly struggling so much. "Mom." David kissed my cheek, but it felt perfunctory. Obligatory. "You remember Jennifer." "Of course." I smiled at my daughter-in-law. She was wearing designer sunglasses and carrying a handbag I recognized from a magazine. It cost more than I'd spent on groceries in 6 months. We sat in the living room. David pulled out a folder of papers, spreading them on the coffee table where we'd played board games when he was young. Okay, so Sandra drew up the listing agreement. All you need to do is sign here, here, and here. She's pricing it at $950,000. In this market, she thinks we'll get multiple offers, maybe even a bidding war. I looked at the papers but didn't reach for them. We've also been thinking about the timeline, Jennifer added. Her voice was bright, cheerful, like we were planning a vacation instead of dismantling my life. If we close in 30 days, that gives you about 6 weeks to pack and find a new place. We can help with that, of course. I've already researched some really nice senior communities. There's one in Clearwater with a pool and a craft room. I don't want to move to Clearwater, I said quietly. David sighed. Mom, please don't be difficult. We've thought this through. It's the best solution for everyone. Best for you, you mean? That's not fair. He leaned forward, and for a moment, I saw a flash of the old David, the one who'd cried on my shoulder when his high school girlfriend broke up with him. But it disappeared quickly. This isn't easy for me either, but I have responsibilities now. I have a daughter. I need to provide for my family. And I needed to provide for mine. That's why your father and I worked ourselves to exhaustion for this house. Jennifer shifted in her seat. With all due respect, Eleanor, you're not thinking about this logically. You're living in the past. This house is full of memories, yes, but it's also full of problems. The roof needs replacing. The plumbing is old. The electrical system is outdated. You're sitting on a gold mine, but you're letting it crumble around you. I looked at her carefully. At her manicured nails, her expensive clothes, her leather briefcase. You've never asked about my memories here, I said. Not once in the 10 years you've been part of this family. You've never asked about the garden your father-in-law planted, or why we chose this house, or what it means to me. That's because we're trying to focus on the future, not the past. She tapped the papers. Just sign, and we can all move forward. David pulled out a pen. Come on, Mom, let's get this done. I took the pen, held it, looked at my son's expectant face. I can't sign these papers, I said. David's expression hardened. Why not? Because I signed different papers 3 weeks ago. The room went silent. Even the old grandfather clock in the corner seemed to hold its breath. What papers? Jennifer's voice had lost its cheerful tone. After you first called, David, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about your father, about his last words to me, about what we'd built together. And I realized something. This house was never about the money. It was about the life we created here, the love we poured into every room. Mom, what did you sign? David's face had gone pale. I called my lawyer. Do you remember Martin Sheffield? He handled your father's will. Good man. I explained the situation to him, and he helped me understand my options. I stood up, walked to the mantel, and picked up the photograph of your father. His smile, frozen in time, seemed to give me strength. I've transferred ownership of this house to the Riverside Community Foundation. It's going to become a home for families in transition. Women fleeing domestic violence, families who've lost their homes, people who need a safe place while they rebuild their lives. The foundation is taking possession next month. You what? Jennifer was on her feet now. You can't do that. This is David's inheritance. Actually, Jennifer, it's my house, and I can do whatever I want with it. David stood too, his face flushed. Mom, this is insane. Do you have any idea what you've done? That house is worth almost $1 million. I know exactly what I've done. I've honored your father's memory. I've made sure this house continues to be a home, a real home for people who need it. Not just a commodity to be bought and sold. But what about me? What about your granddaughter? Don't we deserve something? I walked over to my son, this man I'd raised, this stranger I barely recognized. You deserve to work for what you have, the way your father and I did. You deserve to learn that some things are more valuable than money. You deserve to understand that family isn't about what you can get from each other. This is about Jennifer, isn't it? David's voice was bitter. You've never liked her. You've never thought she was good enough. This has nothing to do with Jennifer. This is about you, David. about the man you've become. When you called me that Tuesday morning, you didn't ask how I was. You didn't ask if I needed anything. You didn't even pretend to care. You just saw dollar signs. Jennifer grabbed her briefcase. We should go. She's clearly not thinking straight. We can contest this. We can prove she's not mentally competent to make these decisions. I'm 72, not senile. Martin made sure everything was airtight. I underwent a full mental competency evaluation. I have letters from my doctor, from my friends, from Father Murphy at church. The house is gone, Jennifer. There's nothing to contest. David looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Hatred, maybe. Or just the cold realization that his plans had fallen apart. I can't believe you did this, he said. After everything I've done for you. What have you done for me, David? You call twice a month, maybe. You visit on holidays, but you're always checking your phone. You haven't asked me to dinner in 3 years. You didn't even come when I had that fall last winter and spent 2 nights in the hospital. We were busy with the baby. I know, and I understood. But being busy doesn't give you the right to sell my life out from under me. They left. Jennifer first, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. David paused at the threshold, looked back at me once, then walked out without another word. I stood in the empty living room, listening to their car pull away. Then I did something I hadn't done in 5 years. I cried. Not quiet tears, but great, heaving sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep in my chest. I cried for the little boy who used to run to me with scraped knees. I cried for the teenager who'd told me everything. I cried for the young man who'd asked my advice about everything from college majors to career choices. And I cried for the relationship that had somehow, somewhere along the way, turned into this. But I didn't regret what I'd done. Not for a second. The weeks that followed were hard. David didn't call, didn't text. I heard from mutual friends that he and Jennifer were telling people I'd lost my mind, that I was being manipulated by the foundation, that they were considering legal action. Let them talk. I knew the truth. I worked with the foundation to prepare the house. I packed up personal items, photographs, your father's things. They let me take my time. They understood that every room held a lifetime of memories. On my last day in the house, I walked through each room one final time. I said goodbye to the kitchen where I'd fed my family, to the bedroom where David had been born, during that sudden snowstorm when we couldn't get to the hospital, to the backyard where your father had taught David to throw a baseball. But I wasn't sad. Not anymore. Because I knew this house would continue to be filled with life, with love, with the sound of children laughing and families healing. It wouldn't sit empty or be torn down for some modern monstrosity. It would serve the purpose it had always served, being a home. I moved to a small apartment near downtown, 2 bedrooms, which was plenty for me. I could walk to the library, to the grocery store, to church. I made new friends. I volunteered at the community garden. I lived. 3 months after I moved out, I went back to visit the house. The foundation had done beautiful work. They'd updated the kitchen and bathrooms, repaired the roof, made it safe and warm. The living room was full of furniture and toys. A woman answered the door, young, tired-looking, with a baby on her hip and a toddler clinging to her leg. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I used to live here," I said. "I just wanted to see how it looked." Her face softened. "Are you Eleanor? The director told me about you. Please, come in." She made tea in my old kitchen, though I didn't tell her that. She told me her story. Abusive husband, fled with just the clothes on her back and her 2 babies. No family, no money, nowhere to go. The foundation had taken her in, given her this house, helped her find a job and childcare. "This place saved my life," she said. "My kids are safe here, happy." The other night, my daughter said to me, "Mommy, I love our house." And I just cried because she's never had a house before, just shelters and motel rooms. I watched her daughter playing with blocks in the corner, the same corner where David used to build towers with his toy blocks. "I'm glad you're here," I told her, and I meant it. 6 months went by, then a year. I heard through the grapevine that David and Jennifer had bought a house, smaller than they wanted, but they'd managed it. Jennifer had gotten a promotion. They were fine. I didn't reach out. The wound was still too fresh. Some things can't be unsaid. Some actions can't be undone. Then, one Tuesday morning, a year and a half after that terrible Saturday, my doorbell rang. David stood on my doorstep. Alone. He looked older somehow, tired. There were lines around his eyes I didn't remember. "Hi, Mom." "David. Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He walked into my small apartment, looked around at my modest furniture, my small kitchen, my view of the parking lot instead of a backyard. "It's nice," he lied. "It's enough," I said truthfully. Saturday. The silence stretched between us, heavy with everything unsaid. "Emma asked about you," he finally said. "She's walking now, talking. She saw a picture of you and asked who you were. I had to tell her you were her grandmother. She wanted to know why she'd never met you." I didn't say anything. "I've been driving past the old house," he continued. "Every few weeks, I see kids playing in the yard, different families moving in and out. The foundation seems to be doing good work there." "They are." "Jennifer and I split up about 3 months ago." I looked at him, surprised. Turns out when your entire relationship is built on money and status and keeping up appearances, it falls apart pretty quickly when things get hard. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "She left me for her boss. He's a partner at her firm, makes 3 times what I make. I guess I wasn't successful enough for her." "David, I'm sorry." "Don't be. I'm not." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Losing her made me see a lot of things clearly. Made me remember who I used to be, who you and Dad raised me to be." "And who was that?" "Someone who understood that family isn't about money, that home isn't about equity, that some things matter more than market value." Tears were running down his face now. My son, crying in my living room, looking more like the boy I remembered than the stranger who demanded I sign away my home. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I was greedy and selfish, and I treated you like you were in my way instead of like you were my mother. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. I just needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I did, what I became." I reached out and took his hand. It was bigger than mine now, rough with work, but it was the same hand I'd held when he crossed the street as a little boy. "I forgave you months ago," I said. "I just needed you to see it for yourself. Can I bring Emma to meet you? Would that be okay?" "I'd like that very much." He comes every Sunday now, he and Emma. We go to the park, or read stories, or bake cookies in my tiny kitchen. It's different than it was before, but maybe it's better. More honest, built on something real instead of expectations and obligations. Last week he brought Emma to see the old house. The family living there now invited us in for lemonade. Emma played with their children in the backyard, under the oak tree her grandfather planted 47 years ago. David stood at the kitchen window, watching her play. "I get it now," he said. "Why you did it. This house is still doing what it was always meant to do. It's still a home, still full of love. That's all I ever wanted," I told him. He turned to me. "How do I make sure I raise Emma the way you and Dad raised me? Before I lost my way? You teach her that the best things in life can't be bought or sold. You show her that real wealth is measured in love and integrity and character. You let her see you work hard for what you have and appreciate what you're given. And if I mess up, then you admit it, apologize, and do better. That's what you're doing now, isn't it?" He hugged me then, right there in someone else's kitchen that used to be mine, and in that moment, I knew I'd made the right choice. Not just about the house, but about everything. Because the best inheritance I could give my son wasn't money or property. It was the lesson that some things are more valuable than wealth. It was the understanding that real security comes from knowing who you are and what you stand for, not from what you own. It was teaching him, even when it hurt, that the people we love deserve our respect, not just our expectations. The house is gone. The money is gone. But my son came back to me. Not perfect, not the way he was before, but real and honest and trying to be better. And that's worth more than any house could ever be.